Hi, I'm Rob Mattison, and welcome to another episode of Model Citizen. I'm here again with Chris.
Welcome to another episode for another month here, people.
Yeah, this is going to be a special episode. Last March, we got to go down to Chicago to the Resznhedz Model Toy and Expo show. They have 2 shows a year.
There are 2 shows a year. This, of course, was the spring show.
The smaller one.
It's supposed to be a smaller.
It was pretty big.
Compared to, because we went to the fall one last year, and I was surprised at how big it was. Very surprised, actually. I went down with a lot of money, didn't come back with any money, but came
back with a van full of kits.
Yes, that are now sitting in my closet waiting to be done.
We'll do
hopefully we can do some on the episode for you. But one of the things that I really enjoyed, or that we got the chance to do when we were down there, was meet Mike Parks of Mad Labs, who is not only a sculptor, but he produces his own kits. Wayne the Dane Hanson, same thing, he sculpts for other companies, but he also has his own company. And then Larry Johnson from Action Hobbies.
He's just a model producer.
Yeah, just a model kit producer, but they've had a couple, they have some nice kits.
And we get to learn from all of them.
Yeah, they all had, some interesting things to say, so I hope you enjoy the interviews we did with them. What we're going to do is, as the interviews are going on, we're going to
show some of the surrounding areas
on the floor and some pictures still pictures that were taken. So we'll see you after the episode.
Thanks.
Right now we got a special treat for you. A couple sculptors and a couple companies have agreed to talk to us. And first up is Wayne Hanson. Wayne, thanks for agreeing to do this. We really appreciate it. I suppose we might as well get to the questions right away. The first one is going to be, how, when, and why did Dane Models get started?
Well, Dane Models is me. Dane Models got started back in 1993. I just thought it would be a really good idea to have a name that associated myself with the hobby rather than just my name itself. So Dane Models was born. Just like everything else, free from the mind of Zeus, like Diana. That'll catch some of the higher learning people on the channel.
What genre do you enjoy the most to sculpt?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not basically a monster guy. I'm a little older than that, a little more long in the tooth. I got about 10 years on most of the modeling guys. I grew up with Aurora kits of the Gladiator, Fighting, and the Viking model kits. Those are what I put together. My favorite genres are, these days, I like to do heroes. I just finished doing Jungle Man that I enjoyed very much. There's more to say with a hero than there is with a monster. I like to have not only anger, but heroism and thought behind my characters. I like to have a lot of content.
Who are some of your favorite sculptors?
I would say I'm a Paul Komoda collector. I love Paul Komoda's work. He's probably one of the few garage kit sculptors that I have made a point of collecting his work. I love Paul Komoda's work. I love John Dennett's work. I think John, my test of a good garage kit sculpture is one that I can't customize because it stands alone on its own merits. John Dennett does that with his likenesses, his poses, everything sings as a unit. Tom Kuntz is another one. I love Tom Kuntz's stuff. Jeff Yeager is very good, and Mike Hill.
What material do you prefer to sculpt with and why?
I'm a super sculpty kind of guy. I started out in Roma and plasticine oil-based clays back before I knew about garage kits. And then I found out that everybody was using this polymer-based clay called Super Sculpey, which is mainly made for making dolls. That's why it has this cute little pink flesh tone to it. And it's like a cross between clay and bubblegum. And I've gotten so used to working with it both its idiosyncrasies and its good points, that I've stayed with it, and I've gotten good enough to the point where a lot of people, a lot of toy sculptors that work in wax, they say that they can't figure Super Sculpey out, that they have to finish everything in wax to get really fine detail and really smooth surfaces. I've been able to develop my techniques so that I can get that good in Super Sculpey.
What's the average sculpting time for you in producing it?
All right, this is where I have paid my dues. I spent as much as a year on a piece when I started out. Now I spend on average between 2 weeks to a month actual working time on a sculpt from start to finish.
Have you picked up any tips from other sculptors that have helped or surprised you?
Oh boy, Joel Undowdy has made my life easier. Joel Undowdy is a special effects artist and a garage kit sculptor who has cross-pollinated information from the movie industry into garage kits. Some of his armature making techniques have revolutionized the ease of my sculpting. He picked up some stuff from Tom Savini and passed it on to garage kit guys like me in a seminar, and I'm just very happy about Joel Undowdy's armature techniques. I don't know who it was, a little bird whispered in my ear to smooth Super Sculpey with water, and now I'm totally a water-based smoother with Super Sculpey. And plastic, using plastic, sculpting. If I have my clay and I lay some clear plastic on it and I use my tool with the plastic in between, that's another Joel Undowdy trick that has changed my life and made my sculpting life a lot easier.
What was the first piece you created for a company?
The first piece I created for another company? Or
either for yours and another.
Okay. The first piece I ever created was for my own company, and it was a Terminator. It took me a year to sculpt it. It went through many generations of changes. It was done back in 1992, and I produced it myself. I had a company do my casting, which I usually do. I don't make my molds or do my own casting because of the toxicity of resin. I don't want to get involved in using and pouring resin, so I farm that out to someone who has the equipment to do it safely.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've done? Why?
Favorite piece? Yeah, I have sculpted a piece called The Werewolf and the Gypsy Girl, which is now owned by Alternative Images. It has a werewolf, and on the base it has a female figure, a victim, and the balance of a male energy and a female energy combined in one kit makes it a very well-rounded tale, because that's what garage kits are. They tell a story. So I like that kit very much.
Can you tell our viewers about any new products that are coming out in the year 2000?
Yes. Well, we have 2 new kits that are out right at this show at Resznhedz in the spring. I have a piece that is based on Geiger's initial concept designs for Sill, which is a much more, has more female anatomy and less monster in it than the original Sill creature. I've also done a vampire kit, which is debuting at this show, which is based on, no, it's not based on, but it's inspired by some of the graphic artwork of Timothy Bradstreet. I've come out with a, let's see, I'm selling black Super Sculpey clay this time, so people can make gray out of the flesh tone Super Sculpey, because it's easier to see when you're sculpting. That's another one of my new products. And I have come out with a newsletter. It's not a big thing, but I'm on the internet now. And I have a lot of garage kit modelers and sculptors in my email groups. So I've been saving a lot of my articles that I send. People come and ask me a question on my email, and I'll be typing away and I'll have an article done in like 15, 20 minutes, I'll tell them all the stuff they need to know. So I don't just send it to them. I send it to all my groups and everybody who can benefit from it, and then I save it and I publish it in my newsletter so that these things that, because I'm a very good teacher and I love to explain things to people. So I save this stuff for my new newsletter called Clay Modeler's Journal.
All right. What, if anything, do you find discouraging about this hobby?
What do I find discouraging about the hobby? Sales. Sales are down. It's harder to make $1 in the garage kit hobby, simply because a lot of bigger companies have borrowed from us and borrowed from the excellence of sculpting and come out with toys for $8 that equal a garage kit, and they're already painted, coming from China, and they're mass produced. So what's the customer going to do? Pay $8 for a pre-finished painted figure to put on their shelves, or pay $90 to $100 to buy a figure that they have to put together and paint themselves. So that's kind of discouraging. But I'll tell you one thing that's encouraging about slump sales: the quality. It's a buyer's market. As a result, companies can't come out with second-rate goods anymore. So the excellence of the sculpting and the casting quality of the kits has done nothing but skyrocket. And that has been good for us. This is a hobby that no matter what happens, this hobby will never die because it's done from love. This is a hobby that is dedicated to the love of figures and media-generated characters and even original stuff. So this hobby is an excellence in it, a quality that is unparalleled in any other industry. And it's all homegrown from the imaginations of fans of movies, comics, and that's never going to die because it's all done from enthusiasm.
Wayne, thanks for letting our viewers in on your life there a little bit. We really appreciate it.
Ciao, Bella.
Go in later. All right, and with us now we have Larry Johnson from Action Hobbies. Larry's produced a lot of creature kits, which I like. I'm a big creature fan, as everybody knows, as you've seen from my episodes. So we're going to get right to the questions. Larry, how, when, and why did Action Hobbies get started?
Well, I started Action Hobbies because the kits I was selling in the past were hard to find. So I decided I'd make my own kits and I could be my own producer, and thus easy to come by, or easier to come by because I'd be producing them myself.
What was the first official Action Hobbies release?
Well, actually, probably the first one would have been the Mattison Mutant with the girl, it was a small kit, not the one that I'm producing now. Probably like 1/12 scale. It was pretty rough, but it sold.
Can you give us a quick rundown of how a kit goes from concept to the actual product?
Well, first of all, you have to have your design of what you want. Then what you do is you have someone sculpt it. You get the sculpture. If it's broken down into pieces, you make your molds of it. You pour your castings, and you got your kit. You produce your kit that way. That's a fast scenario.
Is there a favorite genre that you would use for your kits?
Not really. I've done just a little bit of everything. Most of it's sci-fi, some dinosaurs, a little bit of the horror as far as the creature kit's concerned, but nothing really specific.
Who are some of the sculptors that you've had work for you?
The late Rick Wyatt did probably 80% of my kits. I've had a young man up in Indiana, Danny, and then Wayne has done one here. He's done one for me.
Do you have a favorite kit that you've done?
Probably the Phantom with the dog.
What has been your best selling kit?
Phantom with the dog. That was one of the earlier kits that we did also. Rick White sculpted that one.
What do you think about the criticism that the prices of kits are too high?
Well, that's probably going to be a hard question to answer. Some kits are high. I think it boils down to the quality of the kit to the price of it. You could say that probably about anything. A lot of things, cars are too high, houses are too high, you know. It's just what you get. Is it too high for you to pay?
Can you tell our viewers about any new products that you got coming out this year?
We're planning on doing another creature kit. The drawings, Dave Cochran's already done the drawings. We've got probably a dinosaur kit coming out. That's about all we have right this minute that's actually planned, and possibly another Phantom kit.
What's the new creature kit design like? Is it going to be another multi-figure like the?
Yeah, it'll be a multi-figure. It's not going to be a 3-figure, but it's actually a series that we're going to do. The kit that we just got through doing is number 2. The one we're going to do is number 1, and it'll show you why he's enraged like he is in this particular kit.
What, if anything, do you find discouraging about the hobby?
I don't know if I really find anything discouraging about the hobby. I do it, I enjoy it. It's a part-time endeavor for me. I would say someone that is doing it on full-time could probably answer that question better than me.
Do you have any last thoughts or Christmas for the viewers?
Buy more kits.
All right, Lenny, thanks a lot for the interview. We really appreciate it. Our third and final interview is with Mad Labs.
Yeah.
Mike Parks.
Mike Parks.
Thanks for doing the interview. We appreciate it.
Right.
How, when, and why did Mad Labs get started?
Boy. It started in 1989, actually a little bit earlier than that, and why? Why was kind of like, at the time I was a musician. I'd been a musician for a long, long time, and I was really getting tired of hanging out at bars, and I realized that at some point in my life I'd been interested in some really neat things called monsters, and the Aurora kits and all that. I think it's the same reason that a lot of people got into this was that childhood memories kind of came flooding back, and a guy named Terry Webb, who has a really good magazine called Amazing Figure Modeler, had introduced me by pictures of some kits from Japan called Billiken kits, and they were of monsters that I had always wanted to see done as bottle kits. Cyclops from Seven Voyages to Sinbad, and on and on and on. Couldn't get them as a kid. You know, we had the typical Aurora stuff. This stuff was just ultra cool, and he had heard that I'd sculpted for fun, and which I did in between gigs with bands to kind of get stress out of my system. But it led to him introducing me to Lee Staton, who puts on the Wonderfest show in Louisville, Kentucky, who Terry badgered me into going to Kentucky to meet. After a 2-year period, I went down, met him, he drew a picture on a piece of paper of how to make a mold. I went home and tried it, and it worked. It was like magic. It was for the first time in my life I realized you could make many things out of one piece. I always thought, as a sculpture, when you do one, it's done. If you sell it and give it away, it's done. You never have one again. With the advent of learning how to make molds and make resin copies, it introduced me to this hobby, and I just went bananas. That was 11 years ago, and it's all I do now. I quit music. You know, I still play, but I don't play in bars or clubs or anything. It's just like, this is all I do, and I love it. You know.
What genre do you enjoy to sculpt the most?
By happenstance. Well, I science fiction, horror, monster creatures, anything that's got some sort of creativity to it that's a little beyond the norm. Sweepers, I love sweepers. They're great to sculpt, and sweeper guys. And I also humor. By happenstance, by introducing a cheap little kit to my model line, which I thought would be a good introductory piece for kids who, you know, a lot of people at that time didn't know what resin was. They'd see a resin kit and just go, what's this, you know? And it was expensive. Well, I introduced little kits as $15 introductory kits, and they were super deformed, comical or humorous characters. And that led me to doing other humor pieces, and I kind of enjoy that as much as I do in monsters, you know? So it's...
what material do you prefer to sculpt with, and why?
Now I prefer to sculpt in wax. I had sculpted in Sculpey for about 11 years, which is a polyvinyl clay. It's something that It's not very forgiving. It's almost like working with mud at times. You know, you can put your thumb into it, but 5 minutes later, the thumb doesn't look like a thumb anymore. It resists work, fine detail work. I became good at it after working with it for so many years because you learn to beat it to death until it makes something of itself. But now I work in wax, which is a preferred medium, because you can handle it. You can put it in your hand and work with it. With sculpt, you had to mount it on a board, and you couldn't touch it with your fingers because it would imprint. You know, your detail could get wiped out. Wax is hard, so you sculpt away at it and smooth it out, and it's like there for eternity.
What's the average sculpting time for you in producing a kit?
Man, it could be anywhere from a day to 3 years. I've had things take forever by procrastination mostly. Yeah.
Have you picked up any tips from other sculptors that have helped or surprised you?
Yeah. Every show I go to, every sculptor I meet, and again, because I started so early in this hobby, before I was like the 6th company in the United States doing it. I got to meet people as they came into it, and it's just like anything else. When you may be good at your time, but as more people come in, better people come in, you know, and it forces you to get better. So you got to ask questions. And I mean, Randy Bowen's a friend. I mean, I've talked to a lot of the people that are considered really, really good people, you know, in the field, and they all have little bits and pieces they can feed you just by asking or watching or studying a piece. You can kind of figure it out after a while what they did to get something. And there's a million different things. You can take foil and press it into clay for texture, or you can use sticks. I mean, it's just everything, you know.
Who are some of your favorite sculptors?
Oh boy. Out of the genre, there's a guy named Michael Parks, believe it or not. Spells his last name a little different. He's in Barcelona, Spain. Incredible sculptor. He does fantasy stuff, much along the line of some of the early comic book artists from the 70s, like Barry Windsor Smith, Jeffrey Jones, people like that. Mike Kaluta, very fantasy-oriented stuff. As far as the hobby goes, some of the Japanese sculptors, too many to name. All the guys at Future, the guys that do work for Todd McFarlane. There's just a million different sculptors. It's hard to name any.
What was the first piece you created for your company?
The Cyclops from Seven Voyages to Sinbad. I did a 6.5-inch figure with a base. It was the first figure in the hobby that had a base outside of the Aurora kids, which kind of launched my line. It got my kids selling very well, which led to the next piece and vice versa. But it was soon bought up by Geometric Design when I'd had my way with it. I'd had it for about a year, and Geometric bought it, which was their first kit. Which is kind of odd, so it still lives.
Do you have a favorite piece that you've done, and why?
Favorite piece? Boy, I got a few. There's a little piece in a line I make called Super Tiny Tears. It's a Godzilla parody of him as a samurai, and he's airborne off of a base, and he's got a sword in his arm, something like that. I like that. And one of my original pieces called Threshold, and it's just because I got to do my own thing.
Can you tell our viewers about any new products that you got coming out this year?
Yeah, I got a new series, out right now called. I don't know what they're called. They're little bases with a movie marquee on the back of it, like a poster marquee, and then in front of it I've positioned different characters. Like the first one was Earth versus Invasion of the Saucer Man. It's a replica of the poster in 3-dimensional form with the same poster as a nameplate. And it's leading to others like the Blob, and they're very affordable, inexpensive kits, and I've done them in translucent resins. A lot of things that's more toy-like. You got a kit and a toy kind of in the same genre, for the same package. Some more Super Tiny Tears, more Godzilla parodies, and I'm going to do a couple girly kits, kind of very soft in nature, not so hardcore in your face. So.
What, if anything, do you find discouraging about the hobby?
High prices. I really despise the way a lot of kit companies have come into this and charge like $150, $200, $300 prices for pieces, knowing what they cost to make and what they pay the sculptors and what the production is on the things. They're getting maybe 1,000% profit on it. You know, I think in turn it in the end damages the hobby because it turns a lot of people off. You know, I mean, you can produce the same piece sometimes for $50. The hobbyist gets it and has a good time with it, and they come back for more. They know they don't have to mortgage their house to have this piece in their home. So high prices is one, and I think there's a lot of ego and attitude really prevailing in a lot of circles where it shouldn't. You know, but overall, there's not really a whole lot of discouragement in it. It's still fun and it's still a blast, or I wouldn't be doing it.
Do you have any last thoughts or comments for our viewers?
Yeah. If you're going to produce kits, which everybody seems to be doing these days, keep it fun. You know. I think overall in the hobby you should have fun with it, because it is a hobby. By nature, it's a hobby. Model kit building has always been something to take and have a good time with. It's in your leisure time activity. You know, it's not something you sell your house for. It's not a drug. You know, it's not something you want to mortgage your car, get rid of your wife and kids, and go out and do. And don't take it too seriously, man. It is fun. It's just something you need to relax and kick back and enjoy. You know, and keep a low-profile attitude. You know, there's no sense getting egoed out and backstabbing and all that stuff.
All right,
Just
well,
have a
Mike,
good time.
thanks for the interview.
You're welcome.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did being down there, and I hope you learned some things from the sculptors and the kit producers.
We did.
Yeah. Well, we briefly met Mike before.
Yeah.
You've talked to him a little more, but
And Wayne, we talked to a little bit before.
Yeah, I just talked to him a little bit on the phone to set up the interviews. But
well, that's one nice thing about how big these shows are, and you still get to meet the people enough to actually become friends with them.
Yeah, you can talk to them. It's kind of a little different than a lot of the other conventions that are out there.
It's more personable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. But there will be a fall show coming up in September. This one's going to be
4 days.
4 days, and they're combining with, there's a horror convention or something that goes on, so they're combining with that. It's going to be 4 big days. We hope we'll go down for 1 or 2 days
Go
again.
down and have another show made out of that.
Yeah, have another episode for you, and
we'll catch you next month.
See ya.